Spotify Raps by Gregory Brandt. Why is Spotify and its quote-unquote end-of-the-year rap so important to young people in 2022? I understand that a paid subscription to Spotify is much better than a paid monthly subscription to Pandora. I found that out in 2022. This is when I first became a Spotify user. Previously, I was using Pandora. I used Pandora for almost 20 years. It took a couple days into a free subscription at Spotify to realize that Spotify is a much better service and I will never use Pandora again. I still have never used SoundCloud and I don't plan to. But Spotify quote-unquote raps apparently seems to be a big thing with college-age people nowadays. I'm talking about the older Gen Z kids and younger millennials. They all don't have a $10 monthly subscription to Spotify, do they? It reminds me of that statistic I heard that 80 or 90% of all U.S. teenagers own some sort of Apple iPhone. They all don't have the latest Apple iPhone 14, do they? I imagine some of them just have older model iPhones. I remember when I was a teacher, I taught at some pretty poor schools, and I was surprised seeing some of the students using really old iPhones. The iPhone basically came out in 2008 when I was a student at Haughty Dawdy University of Texas School of Communication, and all the students and all the faculty and all the computers there at the communication school were Apple Macintosh. We used top-of-the-line equipment. It was all Apple. I remember having a brand new Dell and being frowned upon. One day I was working on a group project with a few different students, and each of them had their Macintosh Apple laptop on the table in front of us, and I proudly placed my new Dell laptop on the table and politely said, "What are the odds? 3 Apple laptops and only 1 PC?" Then this snobby girl who I had a history with, who didn't get along with, who wore too much makeup, she said, "This is UTJ school, so actually it's not a surprise." I've thought about what that girl said for about 20 years, and she was actually halfway correct and halfway incorrect. At the time, 2006, even though our school used entirely Macs, Apples, 90% of the computers on Earth were PC. But she was correct. It was the University of Texas quote-unquote J school. This was the same thing when I was asked what the word algorithm meant at the student communication class. This was the same year. The student was giving a presentation about a new website, Pandora. Algorithm wasn't a common word in 2006, and nobody outside of a tech student or a math student really knew what it meant. 2006 was almost 20 years ago. Now everybody knows the word algorithm, but I like an expression that came out recently in the past couple years. It reminds me of the spontaneity of life, and that is the algorithm is always changing. My name is Gregory Brandt. I hope you enjoyed this. Hit the ding.